Hey, what's going on, fam? See, here's the thing. We're going to talk about idolatry today. More specifically, how did we get here and how do we fix it? Idolatry is a touchy subject for a lot of people, but for us, we're going to take it from a couple of different perspectives. So, for instance, the definition, Webster's definition of idolatry is extreme admiration, love, or reverence for something or someone. Um, the part that sticks out to me is reverence. Um, we all, as I mentioned before, are involved in our church. So when I saw reverence, I immediately went to the biblical standpoint. So that being said, um, we're going to have Brandon go ahead and give us the biblical perspective when it comes to idolatry. And I only say that because, again, this is a touchy subject.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm gonna go ahead and let you have the floor on this one.
Okay, so thanks for bringing up the Webster's definition. I know we like to, we ourselves and our audience will probably want the fact, right? And also, I pulled up the Webster's too, or so we're on the same page. And also in that extreme worship and reverence, it says you look at this physical object or person as a god, right?
Mhm.
And look at us as Christian men, there's one God. And I don't have to give you an exact scripture on that, but we know from the Bible, God is a jealous God and he wants to be worshiped as the only God, as he is. So whether it's Kobe Bryant or whatever, or it's the stick man you created in your backyard, you shouldn't create that as a false idol. And there's so much information, scriptures, stories, and even Christian lore about idolatry and its downfalls. Just to go even more definitive, let's look at the 10 Commandments, right? That's our kind of rule book within the rule book of the Bible. The first commandment is you shall bear no false gods, right? You shall have no other gods than me. So right out the bat, fresh from heaven on those tablets Moses brought down, we were told as Christians not to embrace in idolatry. That's the first rule, not the most important, but that's the first rule God gave us. And that's Exodus chapter 20, book 20 chapters, verses 1 through 17. Those are the 10 commandments, starting with you shall have no other gods before me in verse 3. Verse 4, you shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven or above, on the earth, beneath in the waters below. Verse 5, you shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I am a jealous God. So again, it's a jealous God. You don't want to dig into that. And you sit me on a wormhole in the Bible because this is not just a one size fits all scripture. There's a lot. There's several instances in the Bible where God strikes down at idolatry. And before I win myself out, I just want to think just from the 10 Commandments standpoint and bringing that into where we are here. Where do you guys look at that? Because we're Christians. We're not supposed to embrace an idolatry.
Now, see, and here's what I say about that. It's interesting because when you look at just a dichotomy of the biblical perspective versus the secular perspective, Carl, how do you think those two coincide? Because I think that, can we say that it's human nature, it's innate to idolize something or someone?
Short answer, yes. And it's funny because that was my thought when this first came up as a topic. I'm like, I think that that's just human nature. So I'm gonna go with the same story that you just had, Brandon. Now, whether you're Christian or not, this is the story in the Bible of Moses leading the Hebrews out of Egypt after 400 years of captivity. So here's a man who was raised up by God. And this is the story, like I said, whether you believe in, whether you're a Christian or not, but this is the story. Man was raised up by God to deliver his people out of 400 years of bondage. He had to go through miracle after miracle to convince the oppressor to let his people go. He then marches them to the Red Sea where they are pursued. Again, another miracle happens where they cross on dry land over the sea and let the oppressors, pursuers die in this water. And they are now free on their own, headed to their own land.
Mm-hmm.
This God did this for them in the story. 6 weeks later, they say, where is this God? We out here starving. Let's make us a God that we can look at.
Yep.
Because we don't see this dude no more. We saw him over in Egypt making all the miracles, but we don't see him no more that we over here now.
Yep.
And looking at that, that is to me human nature. That is a very descriptive story of human nature. If I don't see it, I don't believe it.
So then what I look at is, in a sense, it's almost as if we crave what we don't have. You see someone, and this is from a secular perspective. I think society has played a role in idolatry.
Oh yeah.
Growing and evolving. Looking up to people, athletes, entertainers, and from a spiritual standpoint, even preachers. I think what we have done is it's kind of evolved idolatry into something called a parasocial relationship, which is a non-reciprocated relationship in which one person is densely knowledgeable about the other person. So when you think about it in layman's terms, you idolizing an athlete, you know everything about them. They don't care about you.
Nope. Don't even know you.
And I think one of the examples I remember, the commercial with Charles Barkley. He said, "I am not a role model." On the surface, people are like, well, what you mean you ain't a role model? But if you dig deeper into it, he's saying, don't look at me and idolize me, because at the end of the day, I'm human. I'm flawed. And I think, society has gotten us to the point where, we're putting people up on pedestals. And even preachers, if you think about it, athletes, entertainers, preachers for this show, very ego driven. Now, I can't pigeonhole all preachers, but for the ones that are out there, there are people that will only go to a church because of a preacher. You don't go to church for God. You go to church for this preacher. And if that preacher were to lead the church, then you lead the church.
See, here's the thing on that. And I agree with you. But I don't know if we're blaming, putting fault, or like, again, it's a human nature. But we've been given so much access to people now.
True.
So I think about 60s, well, I wasn't born in the 60s yet, and I'm not that old. But in the 70s, 80s, had football, basketball, baseball players that we, looked up to. And you didn't know anything about those people until they got in trouble. And particularly in the 70s and 80s, cocaine was a really big thing. So a lot of times you see your athletes get hooked on drugs. You didn't know nothing about them. You didn't know how many kids they had. You didn't know, because we didn't have this. We didn't have a 24-hour news cycle. We didn't have social media. Now, you know all of LeBron James' kids' names, where they go to school, what his house looks like. Michael Jordan's son is dating Scottie Pippen's ex-wife. We didn't know all this stuff before. So that kind of attention, again, human nature is going to breed pride, and people are going to want to be, looked upon. We didn't, and I think of it now, if you have an athlete or an entertainer that you like, you're going to like them until they say something you disagree with. And then as soon as that happens, well, now I don't like you no more.
On to the next.
On to the next. Well, before, if they were just entertaining you, you were fine with it because you didn't know them. And I think that type of immense knowledge that you're talking about, it's gonna help foster an innate human nature of idolization for that person. I'd rather not know a lot of things about those people, anybody that I'm not that close to, even a preacher. I don't want to know that TD Jakes was partying with Diddy. I don't want to know that.
Take that.
fair.
Take that.
You know,
Fair.
because I might have just listened. I might have listened to him on Sunday
And
and
he's
been
out
like,
there, get ready, get ready, get
"Oh,
ready.
what a word I got!" And now I got a whole nother image of him in that tight Versace jogging suit
Yep.
at a Diddy party. So if we need to, more compartmentalize. But I think again, the genie's out of the bottle because again, we know too much about these people.
Well, and see what I look at too, just from a human perspective. You brought up preachers with knowing too much. Years ago, I was at a church and found out some things about the pastor,
Mm-hmm.
and it changed my viewpoint of him. And I made a decision at that point that the next church I went to, I don't want to be in the clique. I don't want to know,
Mm-hmm.
because I want to come for the word.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes when preachers get caught up and they become the focal point of the churches, then that's where the idolization
Mm-hmm.
starts. Because if you look at, especially the Black church, the majority of the congregation are females.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a male preacher, you're going to get that attention.
Oh yeah.
Some of it is warranted, some of it isn't. And I will say most of the leaders of Black churches are able to say, okay, these are my parishioners.
Yes.
This is the congregation. I'm not going to cross that line.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some
Yeah.
that because they have this idol worship, they get caught up.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's important for us to understand too that there's enough blame to go around.
Oh yeah.
But I think when it gets to, the idolatry of it and people are, focused on that particular person, then it takes away from their healthy relationships with family, with friends, and all of a sudden you focused on this person, and what they're doing, because I think when it comes to blaming, we deserve some of that blame.
True.
The athletes, the entertainers deserve some of that blame,
Sure.
but also corporate America.
Oh well, you put money into it, everything is going.
That's a whole.
Because Carl,
that's a segue.
to your point, we have access, more so than we did before to entertainers, athletes. A lot of it is a facade because corporate America is behind
Absolutely.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Where you get into trouble at with social media, the Ja Morants and things like that. When you start seeing who these people really are, because they drunk or they high and they go live on IG.
Reality check.
Guess what, bruh? Now And my thing is, I can honestly say I've looked up to people, and I think that's the healthy part. You can look up to people.
Yeah, admiration.
But you don't have to idolize, because when you idolize, it takes on a different viewpoint to where they can do no wrong. Because from the athlete's perspective, I mean, I know some people that, totally idolized. And I think back in the day, Carl, when we were coming up, and Brandon, maybe even for you, from sports figures, we looked, I want to be like that.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Only because we saw what they were doing on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But now all of a sudden it's taking on a different animal, and you want to have everything.
Yep.
I think about from an entertainer perspective, kids want to be like this person, they want to be like that person. Jay-Z, for example, with his partnership, the Rock Nation partnership with the NFL, to where he's doing the Super Bowl halftime shows, right? So in addition to that, and this is something I didn't know, I just found out recently, he's also supposedly doing something with social justice. Did you know that? Because I know the Super Bowl halftime shows have been phenomenal, but I ain't heard nothing about the social justice.
Yeah,
Bits and
I know he's
pieces.
done some things about prison reform and sentencing mandates and trying to, do some stuff around that. And that's very, I mean, and I'm trying to downplay it at all. That's nice. But that's not what people look at him as. They don't look at Jay-Z as a social activist, which, may or may not be what you should be doing, but I don't think that's the look he's necessarily going for. He's doing things behind the scenes. And I think that that's an issue. That's one of the issues you talk about in idolization. I can come out here and entertain you and show you that I'm a billionaire and rap about being a billionaire and have partnerships with the NFL. But the stuff that's really affecting the everyday people isn't publicized as much.
Mhm.
Why do you think that? Okay.
Well, again, that's money. That's not profitable.
So then corporate America saying, hey, yeah, you doing that, but let's get back to this.
I saw that either this past week, couple weeks ago, whatever. Michael Jordan opened a health clinic in his hometown, and he also had opened one in Charlotte. Did you hear about that?
Nope.
Did you hear about that?
First time hearing now.
Yeah. There's no money involved in that. He's not selling any shoes with that.
Yeah, it's not a retro release. I bet that would
So
probably get more
if
coverage.
He's been giving
right,
away
if he put out
a
some
free
Jordan
pair of
2s,
J's to the first 100
exactly.
people,
Everybody that's
getting
sick
the
come in and get some
vaccine.
J's or something, you know. But it's nothing involved, you know. And I'm somebody who, I'm not a Michael Jordan fan, so that's just because I'm a Pistons fan. And if you're
Gotcha.
a Pistons fan from
Understood.
the '80s, you just don't.
Bad
you know,
blood
we
there.
don't do
Yeah.
that here.
Rock with the Bulls.
But I did look at that and say, oh, that's admirable to do.
Mhm.
He was there with his mom. He said, you know, this is, you know, kind of my mom's, you know, thing. I wanted to see her, let her see me do this and this, that, and the other. But there's no money involved in that. So, as you said, when you get corporations involved, when you get money involved, I'm not going to stand there. I mean, the Charles Barkley ad wouldn't fly now. I'm not a role model. Yeah, you are. You better be,
Mhm.
so we can
You
sell
want
these
that
shoes.
money. There you go.
You know, and I don't, you know, at the time I was a little older, so I understood exactly what he was saying.
Yeah.
And I understood the commercial. And I was saying, that's right. He's trying to say, don't look up to me. I just play basketball. But it's kind of, again, it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle once we start finding out about these people
Mhm.
and, you know, wanting to have, you know, access to their lives and feel like we have a right to.
Mhm.
I buy your shoes. I need to know everything about you.
Or I come to see you dribble that basketball. I can sit up in the stands and shout and holler whatever I want
Whatever I want.
to.
It's just
And you're not affected.
because you're an idol. You're an object.
Yep.
Mhm.
You're not a person anymore.
You're
an
immune
object.
to all of this.
Right.
So-
And I pay my money to see this object entertain me. And that's what it's really about. People want to say, again, they want to see something. They want to have, there's a never ending quest for humans to feel good. And you're going to make idols of whatever makes you feel good.
Okay, but then on the flip side, from a negative standpoint, then it's almost, in my opinion, it's kind of like social media. You look at this and you see, you know, the Jay-Z's, the LeBrons, and this, that, and the third. Then at some point, that idolization starts to fester and feed into things within yourself. Depression, you know, the negative thoughts and feel, well, they have what I want, but I can't get that. I would like to, but I can't. And I'm seeing all this flashy stuff. I'm seeing these jewels, these cars, so on and so forth. So I think, you know, one of the things when it comes to idolization is, you know, having kids and as they grow up, that healthy idolization that, yeah, I'd like to play like we were coming up, you know, Bo Jackson, my God. I'd still, to this day, there is not another athlete I think parallels what Bo Jackson has done. So we wanted to be like Bo. You know, you wanted to be like Mike. On the field, on the court, not everything else. And Carl, you know, going back to your point about having all that access, we see all these things. For instance, I have a daughter, 5 years old. Call your girls. I don't know, or let me say this emphatically, I wouldn't want my daughter saying, Daddy, I want to be like Beyonce. Why you want to be like Beyonce? She does. Okay, don't get me wrong, Beyonce's a wonderful entertainer. But from where we come from, education was a big part of us coming up. Beyonce dropped out of high school at the age of 15. She got a GED some years later. I don't want my daughter to be like that. So I'll let her know. No, you don't want to drop out of school and, you know. And no offense, but in some instances, you can tell some of these celebrities that haven't had
Education, proper training.
educational structure like we have. You know, there's some entertainers where you'd be hard pressed to find an interview where they're speaking at length.
We
And
remember
we know why that is, because they got people behind them.
But
you
there's a
see the
lot of
Kevin Garnett
people.
accident. So
There's there's a lot of people, entertainers, athletes. I just named the three that you just said: Bo Jackson, Beyonce, and I say Michael Jackson. Put another one there. Those are one of one. You can say I want to be like that, but those are one of
Yep.
one.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say I want to be, I want to be a singer, I want to be a football player, you can aspire to those things, and you can pattern yourself after this person's style. But you can't be, and I think that's part of it too. I know I can't be that, but I want to have that so much that I want to draw everything from them. I want to know everything about them. I want to follow their every move. Again, on a quest to make yourself feel better about yourself.
Okay.
So
Let me challenge you guys. So I know, taking the points that we've given right here from you two with the modern day or, modern post history standpoints, looking at past to future, right? So coming back to the good book here, you brought up the people with Moses, the Egyptians, right? The story of the golden calf. They wanted somebody that they could see and worship. So they got a golden calf and built an altar to worship, because like today, you can see your idols. They couldn't see God. So they got this calf that they could see and worship. And what was God's reaction to that? Long story short, he wanted to kill all of them. Moses said, no, 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 no. Let me try to
Hold up a
cushion
second,
the blow
Dad.
here. And he did. And turn around, they still continue with the golden calf. And if you look it up in Exodus, what's the end of the story? They were cursed with a plague, all because of their golden calf. Now, that's back then in the Bible, where they didn't have social media, where they could check in on God or whoever they wanted to idolize. And then if you fast forward to the book of Revelation, this is the future, right? This is the predictions of the end of the world. This is the wrath of God. So now people are seeing the wrath for their sin. Going back to the 10 Commandments, idolatry is a sin. So you've literally got Bob, Dave, and all them walking down the street seeing the four horsemen, the earth on fire, scorched earth, every horrible thing you can imagine. And you're still going to say, I'm going to worship Stick Man over here. Even though everything that has been written in the Bible, that's told to you, all this suffrage for these idolatry and, of course, other sins, and people are still holding on to that. Now, of course, we don't know if that's going to happen, but that's just the prediction of the future. And I'm pretty sure you guys hold faith to the Bible like myself. But just off that basis, you see in the beginning of the Bible, pre-Christ, there was idolatry. And potentially at the end of the world, there's idolatry, and extreme idolatry, to the point that with the earth is literally on fire, and you're still worshiping your false idol or this another golden calf. So we're in the middle right now, essentially. I guess some people might say it's the end of
I was about to
times
say,
now. But wherever we stand, right, there's idolatry here and now. And just so maybe we can help somebody, where's this happy medium where you can, and is there even a way to healthily idolize, or can you back away from idolatry? Because I don't want people looking at the scorched earth still, this is my pen, this is my holy pen, and that's what I stand by.
I'm gonna say, I'm glad you said it that way. Is there some type of medium? Because I was gonna answer Eugene's question up front when he said, how can we fix it? Can't. And it's me, I don't think it can be fixed because of just what you said.
Yeah,
It's gonna
there.
continue on. But is there a conversation space? I mean, I'm not gonna say a happy medium, because it is.
It's a tough subject.
It is
it's not going to go away.
Not gonna go away. But is there a conversation? Because this would be my conversation. Again, I come at it like this. What is making you're on a quest to make yourself happy? And like you said, if it's a golden calf, it's a stick man. At the end of the day, is that making you happy? And if it's not, where you go from there?
Well, I think that, one of the things for me, I tend to see the world in black and white. Most people with sense realize
Fair.
the difference between good and bad. And most people know that when you're doing something bad, if it hits you a certain way, you probably shouldn't be doing it. But because we've talked about how idolization is innate. It's something that you have to work with within yourself. You have to speak confidence into yourself. You have to speak confidence, I believe, into other people, and especially those coming up under you, because we have experience, we have wisdom. Granted, we can't make anybody do anything.
True.
But just like, the edict that Jesus laid down to the disciples when he came back, go out, teach everybody what I've taught you. So I think it's incumbent upon us to be able to see, that facade, be able to recognize what's real. I think there's a healthy idolization that you can have, to Carl, to your point, to aspire to be in a particular field like somebody. I know I can't be Michael Jordan, but if I'm interested in basketball, let me be the best basketball player that I can be. And that way you don't, set yourself up for failure. When I was in the military, when I was in Asia, found out that they have a test that they give to the youngsters. I think in middle school, 11 or 12 years old, you take a test, and it's almost like an aptitude test. It determines what career path you can go.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they have, at that time, such a high suicide rate amongst those kids, because here it is, you take a test, you think you're going to be a doctor, come back, no, you can only be a garbage man. What the heck?
Yeah, you're doing.
So, I say all that to say that a lot of times, we have to feed ourselves and don't necessarily look to somebody else to say, okay, this is how you do it. Again, you can aspire, but I just truly think that there's a certain amount of common sense that we have, and that, in and of itself, it baffles me because of where we are now as a society. And everybody is just so caught up in, idolizing this person, idolizing that person. I think, though, that people that are being idolized, they have to take some responsibility. And, you put out what you want to put out, but you have to understand the effects behind it, both good and bad.
You give people too much credit. Because one,
that's why Moses was so upset.
One, you give people too much credit, Eugene, because one, you're saying people have common sense.
Most people, I think.
You say most people, but okay, I'll give you an example. Most people, this is what you're saying. Most people have common sense, and then people who are being idolized need to take responsibility and say, I shouldn't be idolized. 2016, we elected Donald Trump as president of the United States. He didn't
win a popular vote, though.
He didn't win a popular vote, but he got enough. He got enough. And his entire platform was, I'm better than this guy. I don't know nothing about government. I don't know nothing about running the country, but look at me. I'm Donald Trump. Look at what I've done. He was elected, and he immediately became an idol. That's what he wanted, and that's what he still wants. He wants, statements like, I can go shoot somebody in the middle of Times Square and not get arrested. I can sexually assault women, no big deal. I can do whatever I want because I'm Donald Trump. And for people to come and just stand there and doing the Heil Trump and all this kind of stuff, now that's not most people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah,
but
it's upset though.
The other part is, again, we bring in corporate America into it. You publicize that. Again, we have a 24-hour news cycle now. We have an entire news channel dedicated to that rhetoric. So
getting them views.
All of that's money making. You have entire podcasts were developed around the Trump administration, pro and against. So you start bringing a lot of attention and eyes, and people start to make themselves idols because they want that attention as well. People have latched on. What's them? The Diamond and Silk. The two chicks with the wig. One of them had the wig on sideways.
The two ignorant.
Well, the one of them is dead now, so I'm not gonna talk about her. I don't know which one it was. Diamond.
Think she ignorant and deaf too?
But she was ignorant in life.
Yeah, so she
So
ignorant in
I
death.
can say
Just
that.
saying.
But, made themselves. End up
Yeah.
getting to the White House.
Mm-hmm.
These are not, you know what I'm saying? People, preachers,
Mm-hmm.
laying hands in front, black preachers
Mm-hmm.
who he don't care nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
And we know this. So it's like,
So to that point, though, idols don't. That's that unhealthy relationship. They don't care,
no, they
because
don't.
we see what he is after. And I mean, I just figured if you follow him and you got the sense God gave a billy goat, then guess what?
But when people make themselves an idol, and then they're going, it's not, they don't make themselves an idol. Somebody has to
Well, let me
promote them.
pose a question, because you say that's where I was going to get. Where does it come from, right? Because it's always been around in society, whether
Mhm.
it's the cat figure or somebody that makes themselves idol. But is there, a heart, of course, to this? Like another story, wasn't exactly in the Bible, but it's Christian Judaic lore. Nimrod. You look back in Genesis, the Tower of Babel.
Mhm.
There was a tower built so massive and large that it was supposed to reach heaven. The lore behind it is that Nimrod had heard about this via a dream and wanted to build this because Nimrod wanted to be rebellious against God. And again, he became an idol. There were people that liked this idea that you want to rebel against God, you're the next best thing. So this is all a Nimrod, essentially, right? But Nimrod commissioned people to build the Tower of Babel. So you got both sides going on here. So you have, I don't know, the hundreds of thousands of people building this tower that's what, I don't know, halfway off the planet, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't there. But this all came from Mr. Nimrod. So take that in today's example with the MAGA crowd or wherever, what is there truly fault to blame? Because you have two parties. With that example, you have Nimrod, who wants the tower to be built as a form of idolatry, rebelling against God and being a false idol. But then you have the people that are behind it building the tower. So is there shared blame? Is it people, or is it?
I mean, I think it's a combination of both, and again, because I'm so, staunch in believing black and white, good and evil,
Mhm.
and I'm always gonna believe that good is gonna win out,
Of course, yeah.
even with this orange-haired idiot that's running for president, at the end of the day, I truly don't believe he's gonna win. I don't. And if he were to, I don't know if he lasts. And I only say that, I'm not putting anything out there. I just continue to believe in good versus evil. Now, I'm not saying that, President Biden is the holy grail and he's the greatest thing since sliced bread, because he's not. We're all flawed. But
Yeah.
at the same time, when it comes to politics, we're choosing the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at life.
Yeah, true.
I think that, from the very beginning, as far back as I can remember, I knew the difference between right and wrong. You choose wrong, guess what? There are consequences either way. So I think that when we talk about idolizing and whatnot, most, if not all, people know that they're being idolized and they know that they can manipulate the situation.
True.
But then again, how that work out for you? When you look at the big picture, how does that work out for you? Because you looking at right now, Mr. Sean Combs is going through it.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying to myself, if y'all want to idolize, you want to be like these people, then guess what? It's a lot of stuff that you don't know. My mother, God rest her soul, told me one time, you never know what somebody has done to get where they are.
Mhm.
And you don't know what they're doing to keep it, to stay there.
That'll preach on a Thursday, I'm gonna tell you.
So,
True.
I understand that, there is a really big problem when it comes to idol worship, but we have to be, smart enough to recognize what's healthy and what's not healthy. So, I mean, what would you consider to be healthy idolization?
It's common. I mean, and you said it before. It's more common sense because we say idolization and idolatry. When you using the Webster's definition, it's like you said. It's like I'm putting this above everything else.
Mhm.
And when you have to be careful now, is different than when we were coming up. If I say, oh, well, my idol is so-and-so, Bo Jackson, whatever. I can remember one of my idols, so to speak, was Jim Brown. I just love Jim Brown. Never saw him play, but I love Jim Brown. Had an opportunity I met him, a few years before he passed. And how I met him, he was behind me. I turned around, and before I knew it, I screamed like a little girl. It just came out. And that's the first and only time that I thought about that, because I see people going to concerts and screaming at people and all that stuff. And it's like, why are you screaming? But it just came out. I was like, Jim Brown. And it was crazy. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay. And a lot of times they'll say, don't meet your idols. True. Because they're not going to be what you think they're going to be. And I've had that. And I'm going to say idols, but I've met people that I admire. And that's very true.
Yeah.
It's always been kind of a
letdown.
A letdown. Now Jim Brown, you shook my hand. How you doing? Nice to meet you. Okay, so that didn't let me down. So I was good with that. But then you find out later that,
Jim was throwing women off balconies.
Yeah. So,
it's a little different.
Yeah, it hit a little different for me after, you find out a few things. But I didn't see him as an idol. I didn't see him as somebody that I worshipped.
Somebody that you admired.
As somebody that I admired. So one thing is, I think we have to change the language. You can admire somebody for what they do. You can admire somebody for this aspect. But you don't want to idolize somebody because you want to embody that person and their totality. Mm-hmm. Which, if you say, just like in any religion, Christianity is our religion. We're going to worship God. He's our idol.
Yes.
We want to embody everything that God is.
Yes.
If you say that somebody is your idol, then that's what the definition again. You want to embody everything this person is. And like I said, first time they do something that you don't like, you're going to, now we're canceling people.
Right. And see, there are certain aspects too to that idolization and celebrities, athletes, entertainers, whoever, that can't do any wrong. For instance, when you go, I would love on my bucket list, one of the items is seeing the Rolling Stones in concert. It's just something about the Rolling Stones. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, whatever. But when I saw how much them tickets were, sorry, I can't do it. But this the unhealthy idolization for people that do that. For instance, the Beyonce thing, the Beehive, and she just recently came out, I think, with a hair product line or something like that. And I remember seeing a video that she made on Instagram. And I just started looking at some of the comments. And one young lady commented, oh, I just love Beyonce. I don't care how much these products are, I'm buying them. And people did that, for concert tickets. You gonna forego paying your rent or your car note or bills to go see someone, and 9 times out of 10, you're gonna be so far up, all you doing is looking at the big screen because you see a little blip on the stage. And I think that, for the athletes and entertainers, they know this. So it's like, I feel like there is responsibility on their part. I remember years ago, Stephon Marbury, gym shoes.
Oh yeah, Starberries.
There you go. What was the store that sold them?
Stephen Barry's.
Yep, Stephen Barry's. Yep.
Exactly. And his whole thing was he didn't want to have his shoes cost all this money because he knew the kids, a lot of them couldn't afford them.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the billionaire who has the most famous shoes in the world, he ain't thinking like that. Because he has the ability to change that, because that's his brand. He don't want to do it. But I admired Stephon for doing that because I'm like, dude, nobody had ever even thought about doing anything like that.
Yeah, that was foreign.
Right. And you have to look at, again, kids are looking at you, and now, unfortunately, you got adults that are just fanboys. And I'm saying to myself, are you sick? You go to any baseball stadium. And when they're doing batting practice watch for the people that be down there. The kids are down there, but it's probably more adults, grown men, than it is kids.
Now, a lot of that is they're trying to get autographs.
Yeah, to sell.
So
Yeah.
again,
It's a big part.
money
Of it. It's
comes
business.
into it. But when you start, moving kids out the way, when you start, I got to get a pic. And again, you're an object. I got to get you. You got to sign this. I got to get this picture with you.
Now, to some athletes' credit, I have seen them say, no, I'm not signing that because I know you're going to sell it. Let me get little Johnny over here and sign his hat, sign his baseball or whatever.
I will give them that.
I've seen that.
I've seen that too. And I will give them that. And that's, like you said, to their credit. But at the same time, I've also seen those people react very, and I say violently, but I don't mean necessarily physically, but violently.
Luck of the draw.
Oh, you're gonna do this, and you're and they may go on social media and start blasting this athlete or bad talking about them because they refused their you owe me this time because I pay your salary.
Yeah.
I buy tickets. You wouldn't be anything without me.
Yep.
So if you're making golden calves, that golden calf has no power that you don't give it.
Bingo.
You're giving it everything. And if it doesn't reciprocate,
that's on
you can throw it away and build another one. And that's what we've turned, and that's what I think that the responsibility of the person being idolized has to understand. If you don't give me what I think you should be giving me, I can throw you away. And, whatever it is, some people are so narcissistic that they don't think they can be replaced. Yep. And they're going to do whatever it takes to keep that, that focus on themselves. This was an episode of the Flintstones. I don't know y'all old with this, but it was so funny to me. It was a character on the Flintstones, and he was supposed to have been modeled after Elvis. No, it was Fred actually. And they were going to make him, he was supposed to be like Elvis. And Wilma got all upset and was like, "Oh, he's not here." And the guy said, "Don't worry. In a few months, the FBI won't be able to find him." Because that's what it is. Yeah. You're here right now.
Yeah, on to the next one.
You're here right now. You're hot right now. Save your money. Get yourself together because you're not always going to be this way. Because people, they're going to be always on to the next thing. And it's a lot quicker now than it used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with the whole cancel culture. I know one of the things with the athletes, you're seeing it more, I think, in basketball. And I think that's because the fans are right on top of the athletes.
Yeah.
Some of these brothers are that, you're not going to talk to me like that. And Westbrook, Russell don't play that.
I think he was the start of that movement.
You're not going to say nothing about me out of the way. And you definitely not going to say nothing about my family out of the way. And, for me, that's how I am. It's certain things that I'm just not going to put up with, certain levels of disrespect. Because I think when you are confident in who you are, then you're not going to let anybody disrespect you in a way, that is not conducive. For instance, I tell people all the time, I'm not going to let nobody talk to me in a manner that my parents didn't talk to me.
That's right.
I don't care who you are. And I've gotten into some trouble, a couple of jobs on that because, hold up, that's not going to happen. But I think, Carl, going back, people feel like they own. And in those instances, I admire the athletes that are able to create and stay with that narrative because people know Westbrook don't play that. Kevin Garnett didn't play that. Charles Barkley didn't play
Vernon Maxwell. Google Vernon Maxwell for those who don't know him.
And he's still the same way to this day.
Some things don't change.
Mad Max. That's what they called him.
I'm here to do a job. Your job is to sit there and watch me do my job.
There you go.
Now you want to talk? Come on,
Come on.
But I think that's the way it should be. I don't come to yell at a person. I'm gonna cheer for my team. I'm gonna root against the other team. Yeah. The most you may get is you dropped it. Okay, that's fine. And I'm not gonna start talking about, I know your mama Shirley.
So then there's the correlation of idolization versus ownership.
There you go.
So for the athletes that don't put up with it, It's like they don't care. Again, I'm here to do a job. I do my job. I go home. Let the chips fall where they may.
But the idol, if you have an idol, that you do own it. If
Do
you've
you?
made something your idol, you do own it.
Own it to the point where you control what it does.
Yeah. If I make a golden calf, I can put it anywhere in my house. I can put it on the shelf. I can put it over here. So if I've made Beyonce my idol, Beyonce, you better come to my city. You better. I need you to sell this product. I need you because I own you. I own you, and you got to make me happy.
And if they don't, then you're no longer my idol.
I can replace you.
That's where you go from calf to stick man. And
That's it. I can replace you.
so I think that's the unhealthy obsession with it.
I mean, think about it. Like, how old is Beyonce? 40 something? She 40?
She's 40.
In there, yeah, I think about.
How much longer does she really have that idolization? What the window is going to be closing, because you have to think people who idolize her are younger than her. For the most part, those people are going to evolve. So it's just like I thought about it when we were coming up, when rap music was out in the 80s. I always thought, what are these people going to be like in their 50s?
You know, lo and behold,
still here.
Some of them
Lo and
still
behold,
trying to,
yeah.
and I'm it's my man's, but I'm not buying LL Cool J's album. I'm not.
That's the first person that popped in.
I'm not. I don't want. I mean, and love me. I saw a video last night of Corrupt and Rakim. Love
yeah.
Rakim. Do I want to hear Corrupt and Rakim? I heard it 30 years ago.
And that's the only thing that you want to hear.
Right. And I mean,
hear them in 2024.
And I'm still listening to that music from 30 years ago.
With new stuff now, because
I don't necessarily need, so, and I think everything is going to evolve. And it's the thing. If Rakim was my idol when I was 20 and I'm 50, if he's still my idol, what's my mental like?
You working at Citgo gas station, probably.
Took the smaller bus, huh?
Yeah. I never got on the big one.
See, you know what?
Not even for a field trip.
That's another topic.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Don't cancel me.
Yeah, please don't.
So in talking about, idolization, Brandon, from a biblical perspective, what would be your suggestion? I mean, because if you're gonna stick to the biblical perspective, that issue has never been resolved because
True. And it'll continue on.
Okay. So how would you advise people to develop almost like a healthy form of idolization?
So I'll give you two points on this. I'll throw a bonus one in. First, I'll take it from the Bible and I'll go back to the plight of Moses. I think that's what it comes down to. Of course, it's not like it was in biblical times when Moses, you can just walk up there and go, have a chat with them. But you look at what the conversation in Exodus back and forth between Moses and God, idolatry was going on. God was furious with it. He wanted to essentially just wipe them off the face of the earth. And then idolatry's done, right? Moses said, no. These are your people. You're giving me favor, give them favor. And again, you look at it, sometimes the Christian plight in the Bible is suffering and perseverance. So it's not a short answer, but the long remedy is one person. Many people will have to take up the plight like Moses did and said, okay, what we're representing. This does not represent our God, our Lord we follow. Let's get back on track. Because if you hear what I'm hearing and see what I'm seeing, he's not happy. And what he wants to do, you won't be happy with either. Or else you'll go back like in the book of Revelations when everything's on fire and you've got your golden calf or your Beyonce poster holding on to that for dear life and everyone's around you on fire. You don't want that. I don't think anybody wants to handle through with that.
So let me ask then, as you have grown, has it gotten worse?
I think that's a tough one to say because I don't think it's gotten worse. It's just evolved itself, right? Okay. Because we have modern day idolatry. I'll take the MAGA movement, for example, with people, you can say some people might worship Trump, right?
They do.
You look back in the
they
World
do.
War
They
era,
do.
people worshipped Hitler.
They
People
did.
idolized him, and that was an awful human being from
There
the
seems to be
standpoint.
a correlation between the two.
And you want to take somebody's life? Look at Putin. I don't want to talk about him, but things happen. Idolatry in that way. People worship that man. If you talk bad about him, something might happen to you. That idolatry gets that extreme.
Okay.
But taking a non-biblical standpoint, there's a great philosopher, Marcus Aurelius, which is Stoic movement, and a lot of people, I think that's coming up nowadays. You see a lot of people try to tend to that. He was idolized in a way, he was a powerful man, and he was on the cusp of idolatry. And he had someone sit behind him many a time and tell him, "You're just a man. You're just a man." And from him hearing that and internalizing that, he never went towards, back to my other story, the Nimrod level, said, "Let me challenge God. Let me get a following and force this." He forced himself to hear that he's just a man. And I think from the biblical standpoint, somebody's got to take up the plight of Moses, and we have to hold to those 10 commandments that we have. Is this going to happen perfectly? No. From just the modern world standpoint, I'm just a man. You're just a man.
There you go.
There's no idolatry in that.
Carl, your thoughts?
Pretty much what Brandon said. It's really everybody's responsibility to kind of keep things in check. Like I said, one of the things that you would need, is particularly young people, is kind of watch your language. Instead of saying, "I idolize somebody," you admire somebody.
Yep.
We can, again, the Black community, we can say we idolized Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. And then now, even back then it was known, but now it comes out, it's like, well, these men were flawed. These men were, and this is after they would become known. They had, Martin Luther King had infidelities, and, Malcolm X, some people say that, different accounts that I've read, he may have had infidelities as well, and so on and so forth. And it's like, well, we idolized them. Well, what you really did is you admire what they do.
Mm-hmm.
You admire them for their stances. You admire them for their dedication to a cause. You admire somebody for their talent in, entertainment. Right. But I don't want to idolize them, because I don't want to take on everything. Because, I'll say it like this: I still listen to R. Kelly. Y'all can say what you want to. I'm not gonna stop listening. I know. Hey, this is just me.
You're not
I'm
alone.
not gonna stop
You're not
listening
alone,
to his
so.
music because of what he did. Because here's the thing: I knew that he was married to Aaliyah. That wasn't new. So now you want to come up 20 years later and say, "Oh, he liked little girls." You knew these things.
You think R. Kelly done reached out to Diddy?
I hope not, because they don't.
Similar
Man,
legal
they
team.
They need to be. They need to know. But that would be a bad prison
You don't
to
want
talent show, though, boy.
Can't wait till lunchtime.
But those are the things. You admire him for his talent. You can separate. To me, you can separate the things. You can separate the talent from the person. If I don't, it's so many situations where you can do that, and I think that we just kind of need to make sure that we, reserve that idolization for when you really mean it. And then again, that can start a conversation. Why do you idolize this person or entity?
Well, and I think too, Carl, I like the language turn to admiration as opposed to idolization. I think that, we have to move more towards developing a peaceful relationship with God. That to me, that's a foregone conclusion. Mm-hmm. And, family, take it how you want to, but at the end of the day, we do what we can to help in whatever way. I think you have to ask yourself, if you are idolizing somebody, something, how does that enrich your life? I think that's very important. So, with that, thanks, fellas, for the conversation. Family, remember, stay prayerful, stay positive, stay patient, stay peaceful. See you guys next time.